Hello everyone, welcome to the Jargus Ranger Review. This time we'll be looking at the season premiere of Power Rangers Dino Charge, Powers from the Past. Now it all begins with two spaceships fighting each other. One of them is a little white one, the other is kind of big and intimidating. And the big one behind it has what looks like a bunch of rocks being carried and an energy net behind it. And when we first see our characters, a couple of workers in it are trying to repair some damage that someone named Keeper has done to it. But they're having some trouble with it, and so their boss, that they call Master Sledge, and he has some green skin, but he's mostly covered in armor, and he's pretty serious sounding. He just comes in and fixes himself with his bare hands. There's some sort of electrical connection they were afraid to touch. So already we see a guy who's pretty tough and isn't afraid to get involved himself. And another alien that has a bunch of pink hearts and balloons all around her body. Kinda weird looking, which is a stretch to say when this is Power Rangers we're talking about. She's coming in and complaining that thing's preventing her and Sledge from getting married. Her name is Poisandra and she wants to take down Keeper's ship herself. But one of the minions is blocking her sight, so Sledge just takes them out and lets her have the shot. Guy is cold and brutal. He just takes out one of his own minions for his woman. So finally, the ship of this Keeper gets shot down. And he sits down and he's going to have the Energems soon so he can rule the universe. Oh, we know for sure these are our villains. They flat out say it. And then next, for the first time, we see our new theme song. It starts out like really primal and building up energy. And then when the actual lyrics begin, it's not all extremely fast-paced like the previous 4 seasons were. It's more slowed down, and instead of sounding like it's going to be like a huge action piece with yeah, it's the Power Rangers and they're gonna kick some ass. Nah, this sounds a lot more peaceful and more like full of hope. Like this saying, hey, it's okay. Power Rangers are gonna help. And at the end of it, the only part they repeat from previous 4 seasons were the Rangers all together. But it's more downplayed and a bit low-key. Kind of like how Zeal was. And of its intro, we did Go-Go Power Rangers in a different key. And one detail I noticed about the intro that I don't think I've ever seen in a Power Rangers opening before was that it never showed the Rangers in costume when it introduced their actors. Instead, we see their face take up most of the screen, but on one side you sort of see them fighting, unmorphed, and the other you see them normally, but it does not show them in Ranger form. Instead, there's a small tint to the screen of the Ranger color they are. And that's an amazing little detail right there. I never expected that to happen in a Power Ranger season. They're so cleverly introduced who the Rangers are. And this is much more smoothly edited than the Super Mega Horse opening, because that just had a ton of things flashing at you really quick. But this gave you some more time to take in what you were seeing. So it's a great little opening. I like it. I like it a lot. I hope to hear an extended version of it sometime. And now after the intro is over, we see a short little alien whose face is a bit owl-like to me, but also some reptilian skin. And actually, I'm getting a little bit of vibes of Largo from the Power Rangers Turbo movie, of all things. But he's way better than that, I can tell you that right now. And he encounters a T-Rex. Yep, they're in prehistoric times. And in speaking English, he requests help from the bravest amongst them. Now he opens a container and there's some glowing crystals in there. Apparently those are the Energems. But one of Sledge's henchmen called Fury is looking for him, and he sounds pretty annoyed or angry. And he finds him by his wreckage with his eyes closed, laying down, so he thinks he was dead. But just to be sure, he's about to kill him with a sword, but then he sees that container thanks to the Energems. And he's so excited to give him back to Sledge that he just leaves him there. And then Keeper's eyes open, almost creepily. And you know this has to be a trick. That's just way too convenient. And now back on Sledge's spaceship, apparently it's a big prison as well, because a bunch of aliens are locked up there. And he's just walking through it with Poisandra, and it turns out that he's a bounty hunter and he's also collecting asteroids from what he gains from them. Apparently they're having a little argument about getting married. She complains that his asteroids are a waste of time. Oh come on, everybody needs a hobby. These two are great. They remind me of Rita and Zed when they got married. Great dynamic we haven't seen around Power Rangers villains in a long time. But before they could reach the need for couples counseling, Fury comes up with the container claiming that it energems, except when you open it, it's just a bomb that explodes and messes up their ship. And how convenient that it knocks Fury into a capsule, and then one of his henchmen slides down and hits the eject button that sends him back down to Earth. And so he gets blasted away into the cosmos, but along with more damage to his ship, he loses grip of his asteroids and they start falling towards Earth, and he really screams about that. Oh, I can tell these people are going to be a lot of fun to deal with. Well, back on the Earth, Keeper's talking to a group of dinosaurs, asking them to help, calling them the mightiest creatures on the planet. Now I guess at the time, they must be. He presents them with the energems, saying that they'll be infused with them to keep him out of the wrong hands. And when he goes into the woods, Fury finds him, and they start fighting. It's actually not bad using a spear against a sword. But then all the asteroids come and hit the planet, so Fury tries to run away. Meanwhile, Keeper, which was a big cloud of dust coming towards him, he just stands the lens coming to him. It's like, yeah, I accept my fate. It's over for me. So yeah, it wasn't the Ice Age that killed the dinosaurs. It was freaking Keeper putting a bomb on the spaceship. You can blame him for it all. But now to move on to some human people, we fast forward to the modern day, to a dinosaur museum no less. And there's this guy in a black and red shirt. He's looking at the info of where some of the bones are found. Apparently it's in a volcanic cave and it was nearby. But since this is really the modern age, he takes a selfie with the skeleton. Oh boy, I hope this isn't gonna become a recurring thing. But also inside this museum is a restaurant. A dinosaur-themed restaurant, though it looks almost like it's more like fast food. Who's to say, it didn't show it in too much detail. The point is, one of the girls serving there drops a bread roll in someone's soup and tries to ignore that happened and kept going. And apparently whoever this victim was knew who she was and said her name, Shelby. So she brought her tray to a group of people, except they didn't order it, but she just says, "That's because I knew what you wanted already, enjoy." Yeah, she didn't come off as being better than, she was just trying to cover up that she dropped that bowl. Because while she was not really serving them, you can see that woman in the background trying to clean herself up from her soup that got splashed around. Then just out of the restaurant, she talks to someone else who works at the museum, saying that they're going out Fob's hunt for a Triceratops, which is her favorite dinosaur. She has to go, but he can't take her with her because museum policy. You know, I guess different departments or whatnot. Apparently the guy named Chase tries asking her out, but it fails. And also turns out he's from New Zealand, and he has a very New Zealandish accent. So she goes outside to where they're loading up a truck, and another person here named Coda, and he's a much bigger fella. She tries to bribe him for a burger, but he just does his thing, pretty much ignores that she's there. Then the woman that she dropped the bread roll over comes out, and apparently her name's Miss Morgan, and she's heading the operation there. And she doesn't let it because museum policy. And Shelby tries to convince her by saying all this trivia about Triceratops, but eventually she says, "No, you can't go, museum policy." Two very professional people working with me. And when they look, it's Coda and Chase scooping around. So she's like, yeah, they hide it well. Now, I like Miss Morgan here because she's pretty much straight to the point and no nonsense. So I guess that balances out our roster of characters so far. We got our alien couple, who are also the villains, it appears to be. You have this one girl that's trying to get involved with the museum fossils, and you've got a couple of goofballs. She pretty much plays it straight. But she doesn't let that stop her, so she jumps right in the back of the trucks. And in the few seconds they're showing traveling, we get a nice little orchestral Go-Go Power Rangers tune. Really brings me back to the Mighty Morphin days where it would be used during scene transitions. And then Coda, who's in the front passenger seat, can see him just looking all amazed looking out the window. You know, it looks like an average, not populated street. But now I go back to that guy visiting the museum. He shows up in the woods in a Jeep. They look very similar to the ones that Keeper and Fury fought in millions of years ago. And they weren't kidding, it was volcanic caves. They show him going a little bit in it. It's all lava-ly. All CG lava. So he's looking around there and he sees a tooth embedded in a rock. But before he can really examine it, something in the black crook growls at him and chases him. But he hides the light from his helmet, and they go past him. And he looks behind him to see there's a big dinosaur fossil. And looking a bit closer, there's a red crystal jammed in it. And then he takes it out. Looks very much like one of the Energems. He wears partial red, he gets the red gem, he gets the red Jeep. Nah, he can't be the Red Ranger at all. Now after using a dinosaur biting the screen for a transition, really nice touch I might add, they're finally at the dig, or whatever they're doing. They are finally at their dig site. And Shelby's hiding in the back over a tarp, still in the truck. And during the establishing shot, we get a very quiet Go-Go Power Rangers played on the piano. And it's very quiet. Some people probably might not even notice it. Then we see this same ghoulish thing take one of the boxes. He opened this all pink light and closed it with an evil laugh. She recognized she was stealing whatever it was. So Shelby tries to get Chase and Coda to go after him, but she can't get their attention. So she runs after it herself and tries to snatch it when looking at it on top of a rock. But that doesn't do good because it starts shooting blue lasers at her. Eventually she drops it on the ground, and as it gets closer, as it's in the middle in between them, our guy in red just swoops down from a tree and grabs it and lands next to her. He says his name's Tyler. So to try and fight this thing, he's pulling objects out of his backpack he's wearing. First a banana, then I think a pair of underwear, and a tiny shovel. And then Shelby's like, what are you gonna do, dig us a way out? Well, this thing tries to hit it again with lasers, but the shovel reflects a few hits till it finally breaks it apart. Yeah, that didn't work too well, did it, red guy? But then Shelby takes the crate and she says, if you keep shooting us, you might destroy your thing in this crate. They whisper to each other and they've got no idea what's in it. They don't even know each other. But he finally takes his cloak off and it turns out he's some blue ice monster. So he attacks him and knocks him down. It knocks the Energem that was in the box as well as the one that Tyler was carrying him on the ground near them. And so the two kids reach for them as they're glowing, but he just covers them ice and freezes them. Except one little problem. Our gems glow and free them, and two fossilized objects appear in their hands. Then Tyler just sees a hole in it, so it's like, this crystal will fit in it, so he put it inside, and it turned into a new blaster kind of thing, with something to spin on it. So he just randomly spins it and just like shoots a blast at the guy that knocks him back. Joey's like, how do you do that? He's like, I don't know, I just started spinning this thing and it worked. So they both were spinning their little dinosaur blasters, but this time instead of shooting their own lasers at the guy, the two dinosaur heads came out and had a trail of smoke behind them. They flew up and then they went and bit over them, and they instantly became Power Rangers. And this monster, who by the way has the same voice actor as Florius, the lead villain from Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, recognizes that they were some sort of Rangers. And Tyler says, alright, we can take him together, we can do it. So they try fighting him hand to hand. Not a bad battle either, for a little bit, but it doesn't go anywhere because a red, badly CG T-Rex just runs him over and knocks him out. It doesn't knock him out, but it knocks him aside and instantly demorphs them. And it bites our ice guy and tosses him far in the distance. And they can't believe all that's just been happening to them in the past few minutes. So she starts heading back and notices that her ride just ran off, never knowing what happened. She's like, hey, you wouldn't happen to have a car, would you? And of course he did. So they're driving on the road, presumably taking her back where she's supposed to be. So they're getting to know each other a little bit. And Tyler has a bunch of journals out with sketches. Says his dad disappeared 10 years ago on an expedition. That he saw some sort of monster. And there was a sketch of it and it looked like Fury, but black and white. And there was a nice picture of him with his dad as a kid. So that's unusual. Usually when a ranger starts out with their own mission, it's usually for revenge. But this time no, he's just trying to find Daddy. And it ends with Fury seeing a car go by and saying he smells Energems. Well, somehow he survived these millions of years, it seems. And that ends off the very first episode of Dino Charge. I have to say, this is an extremely great start to a season. Now, I noticed that with Megaforce and Super Megaforce, but that was just built off the hype for the big Legend War at the beginning. This is completely new and stands on its own. I mean, unlike the past few seasons, the Rangers don't have generic personalities. You can recognize them as their own people, and the actors do a really good job at portraying a range of emotions, instead of just making them appear like an archetype. And also, the Rangers didn't just automatically know what they were doing. I mean, they had a morph battle and still have no idea what the hell is going on. So I'm guessing that Keeper somehow survived and he's gonna show up before long to explain things to them, as well as giving them Zords. That's just a guess. And things weren't a giant cluster rush to get to the action scenes like Megaforce was. Pretty much all the disappointment that came from Megaforce was washed away from this one episode. It just did everything right. I mean, a lot happened, but I didn't feel like it was all done at once to cram it into that 20-minute time slot. It all seemed to flow smoothly and naturally. So if you're wanting to check out Power Rangers again, start with this. It holds a lot of promise. It is definitely a 10 out of 10. I recommend watching it right away. Can't wait to see the next episode. And that's all for this time. I'll see you again for the second episode. Until then, I'm Jargus Ranger, and let the power protect you.